Jen McLeod, welcome to Bookshots.
Thank you.
Why did you want to write this book?
I was curious, I think. This book is a little bit about friendships, what happens to friendships after you leave school and the directions that you take. And I was curious, mostly because I've lost touch with a lot of my friends from school. And I think I'm at that age where you start thinking about those things, and I wonder what happened to them. I even Google them to see if I can find them, to see what happened to them, what path they took, where they ended up. I just think it's rather poignant for me at the moment. I'm sitting here living my dream, and I'm wondering if they became their doctors and their lawyers and their actors. So I was curious about that, and I was curious about what would happen if you brought people back together. And I wanted to do something, not just a reunion story. I wanted to do something that was a little bit different.
Given that the theme is friendship, how do you bring your female characters together?
They inherit an old house in their hometown called Kallangarry Crossing, which is in New South Wales. It's a fictional town, but there are elements of places that I live near and love. They come back to the country under conditions of a will. Their benefactor, an eccentric old lady in town called Gypsy, it requires that they come and stay a season each at the old house. And it's once they come back and once they stay that they discover things about themselves. They discover that country roots do run very deep and that small towns can keep very big secrets.
Tell us a little bit about the four women that come together and about the dynamic between them, because they've got history and undercurrents and there's tensions and all sorts of things going on between them.
Yeah. We meet them in the boardroom in Sydney where they're being told about the will and they're being told that they have to stay a season each. We see them at ages 36 and 38. We also get a little glimpse of them in that opening scene back when they were children at school. So you do get an idea of the dynamics. Not a lot has changed in terms of dynamics. Poppy is still tall Poppy. She's very tall. She dominates the room. She is quite imposing, but she's tough. She is a Walkley Award-winning reporter. She's been to war-torn countries, so she's tough. That's what she likes to portray. On the inside, though, she is still quite vulnerable, and we learn that she has a lot of issues with her father, who himself has his own demons. He's a Vietnam War vet, and he's been quite reclusive. And if he ever does communicate with Poppy these days, he starts his letters with "Dear Poppy Gander." So that gives you an idea of the sort of relationship they have. You then have Sarah. Sarah was the girl at school you all felt a little bit sorry for. She was shy. She was born to parents who were quite elderly and they were quite sick. So her teenage years were spent caring for her parents. So she missed out on a lot of fun. She matured quite quickly. Unfortunately, Sarah then hit her own health troubles. She did survive breast cancer, but it changed her. She became very obsessive with her health. She became incredibly obsessive about writing lists. And she is going back to Kallangarry Crossing. In a way, she's ticking something off a list. And that might just have something to do with her unrequited love, a little schoolgirl crush she had on a certain fellow who's back in town as well. Amber Bailey, we knew her as Amber Bailey at school. She's 16, pretty. You knew she was going to do well. She was the popular girl. She would land on her feet no matter what. And she did. She landed in the lap of luxury. She married a prominent Sydney surgeon, plastic surgeon. Unfortunately now Amber has become quite artificial. She's addicted to painkillers and cosmetic procedures. Her going back, whilst everyone will know her because she hasn't changed a bit, what she needs to do is confront her mother, and she's the woman that her and her dad walked away from when at 16 Amber fell pregnant and had to leave town. And then finally we have Caitlin, and all I can say about Caitlin is Caitlin. She is the dux at school, always the first girl with a hand up in class, always knows the answer. She does what's expected of her. She was a good student, a good daughter. Again, probably hiding a little bit of a rebellious streak. She goes back to Kallangarry Crossing as the locum takes over her dad's old medical practice. I mean, I set out to create four women as different as the seasons. That was the beginning of the start of the book. So I knew I wanted to make them all very different and stand out and have their own character and personality.
When you made your tree change and went to the bush, bought a cafe, and a cafe becomes a hub in a small community, and there's a cafe in this book.
Oh, yes, yes.
Would you just like to say a little bit about the things that you learnt from your own life running a cafe that you've brought into this book?
Oh, how to make a good coffee. Very hard. Very hard to get a good coffee. I think small towns lend themselves to drama and conflict. And I think that's because things are more personal in small towns, and I think problems are more amplified in small communities. So it made sense to me to use a small town, and I do love small towns. But I think there's also a perception out there that small towns are all open and friendly and welcoming, and they are. But there's also another side to them, and I think it's from it's the protectiveness that happens in a small town, that they then become a little bit cautious and a little bit wary and a little bit insular, especially when newcomers or strangers come into town. So I wanted to make sure that I showed both sides of a small community.